Nice. Nice. I'm Resident Colin for YouTube. I'm joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, my buddy Gordon Dymowski, my buddy Butch Rosenbalm. And if you can't tell, we're here to discuss the movie Double Indemnity, starring Fred McMurray and Barbara Stanwyck. Edward G. Robinson, really, really fun movie. It's a great noir piece. When did you guys first see this movie? Butch?
I'm glad you asked that, Joel, because that's why I had my other prop. I picked this up at a bookstore in the late 90s called Bookstar, and it talked about Double and Dimly, right? I loved Bookstar.
Yeah.
And that was also about the time I first got online and was pre-ordering DVDs, and that came out. So let's say 96, 97, somewhere in there. And just I have to admit something right away. I cannot stand Barbara Stanwyck. I don't know what the problem is. So her being the villainess, spoiler alert, is fine with me in this film because I cannot stand her. It's why I can't watch The Big Valley, because it's like, oh God, here she is.
Mm-hmm. The eponymous character of the show.
Mm-hmm. Patrick?
Yes.
When did you first
I probably sometime in the 90s. It was when I was home with an ulcer. This was back when they had less to treat it with, and I was given a bunch of painkillers and a very early proton pump inhibitor and sent home. And so I asked a friend of mine, I said, who had a bunch of movies, I said, just give me movies. He says, well, you won't like my movies. I said, I don't care. I'm home. I'm doped to the gills. I just need something to happen in front of my eyes. And so I got great movies, and that was one of them. So that's how I saw it. I had heard, for a long time how sleazy Fred McMurray was in the movie, and boy, they weren't kidding.
No, they were not. Gordon, when did you first see this?
I first saw this movie again in the 90s. I was living in my own apartment, and I actually lived in Rogers Park near a theater named the 400, and they would do like these midnight showings of both obscure and noted films. So one night I think they showed this film, and so I went at midnight, and I was literally right around the corner. I saw it, and was just blown away. And luckily, I was not doped up. I would spend most of my days doped up, so this was, one of the nice times that I had mental clarity and could actually enjoy the film.
Yeah,
when did you first see it?
1997, actually. And I saw this in my own home. I was home alone, and I was just sitting there, and it came on Turner Classic Movies, and it was a beautiful film to watch. I enjoyed watching this movie through and through, simply because, again, the first Edward G. Robinson movie I ever saw was Larceny Inc. And now I had seen Barbara Stanwyck in her older age in the movie Sister Act, starring Whoopi Goldberg, because my mom was a huge Whoopi Goldberg fan. But with this was something so different. And this is what I'll say with modern audiences today, except for you gentlemen. You guys haven't forgotten what a femme fatale is. But most modern audiences have. They say, oh, I want a femme fatale who fights for good. That's not what a femme fatale is.
So, Joel, give us a definition.
A femme fatale is a villainous woman. She's somebody who will lie, deceive, and kill for her own wants and needs. That's a femme fatale to me. And really, Barbara Stanwyck, if you want the perfect femme fatale, look no further than Barbara Stanwyck in this movie. I mean, that's what she is. And even Fred McMurray says to her, he goes, you were going to kill the other guy. I forget his name, but Sketty or something. I'm probably butchering it. But he says that. He goes, you were just using me, and you were probably going to kill that other guy too. That's what you are. Yeah, that is what she is. I mean, in every way. But is Fred McMurray's character any really better? He's slightly better, but not by much. I mean, Fred McMurray is fun to watch in this movie, but so is Barbara Stanwyck and Edward. They're all three great in this movie. They play their characters to a T. I'm not trying to ramble on, but what do you guys think of femme fatales maybe back then and sort of this era of noir television or noir films to compare to today?
I don't really know. Do we get that many outwardly villainous women in that sense in movies?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, in thinking about it, I think part of the challenge has been with noir. The archetype of the femme fatale is so ingrained, and we've seen so many variations of it. I'm not sure if it's. I don't think it's gone up, but I think we've kind of been starting to translate it into quote the action babe or the kind of maybe slightly older, more business type, but just that kind of because with noir, basically these weren't except for Double Indemnity, which was meant as like a primary film. A lot of them were very cheaply made. They were made by sometimes by very it's like hi, I'm Joel. I got $500 and some black and white film. Let's go make a noir film because they're very easy. You can crank them out. And what you also had is the ability to use shadows. And I think Stanwyck sets kind of the template for every femme fatale that moves forward. Is that it's someone who is willing to use her looks and her charms to beguile someone, but it's never clear until it's never quite clear from the outset. You're always you're never sure what side she's on until it's too late.
Is that politically unfashionable now?
I don't think so. I think actually now I think we would probably be I think it would probably be seen as a sign of empowerment.
In which case, are they really the villain?
Yeah, and I think that's where I think that's where I think we're so used to it because we've had 70, 80 years of femme fatales in movies. So I don't know if it would, maybe the last great one was Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. And even there, I'm loath to say that because it's a Paul Verhoeven movie. You know what I mean?
But was she a villainous character in that film? I don't remember. Oh yeah, she was.
Yeah.
It's all about Wayne Knight for me.
I was trying to think of the most recent modern femme fatale, and the only one I could come up with was Eva Green's character in the second Sin City movie, Ava Lord, who uses, I think his name's Dwight McCarthy, to try to get away from her husband. Very similar story.
And that's a purposeful kind of pastiche of these things. So as a vibrant character, and not really. I mean, there's the movie Femme Fatale with Rebecca Romijn. It's a very fine movie. I think it was at De Palma. It was one of his best. But again, that's very self-conscious about all this. I'm probably missing something major, but I think you can get away with it if it's an older alpha female from second wave feminism. If it's because I'm thinking of Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep in that, and it's like, okay, she's old enough. She's not enlightened. She's old enough to behave in that manner. But I don't know. I kind of sense that maybe it's just not, it's misogynistic. Oh, it's whatever to portray these things. I don't know. I kind of wonder where that character went. I mean, you have Wanda from the Avengers movies or something. She's bad, but I don't know if that really qualifies as a femme fatale because we're not questioning her.
Yeah, and I think too with femme fatale, Wanda is pretty much. It's clear from the narrative she is a broken woman.
Yeah, all those for her kids.
Yeah, and I just think the reason we don't see it is not because of like external creative reasons. I just think we're so used to it. It's kind of hard to do it in a way that really stands out. I mean,
is that true for other cliches? I mean, do we still have other kind of tropes and cliches from that era that we still trot out?
I think so. It depends, and I know that's a crappy answer,
No,
but I mean,
that's
Well, the plucky newsboy, the guy with the kid with the paper saying "Go extra, extra, read all about it." That's
all
gone.
right.
We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
That's an economic thing, though. We don't have that. You know, now he's the well-meaning hacker. You know, who's actually on the side of the good guys.
well, think about the character of Neff and how, at least at the beginning, he might be a bit cynical, but we're led to believe he's, I don't know, blindly walking into his own destruction. I mean, I don't want to call him naive, but and I don't want, and he's not a simpleton, but by the same token, it makes me think of that episode of the Twilight Zone where the guy says, "Oh man, I'll walk right into hell with his eyes wide open," and that's Neff. And strangely enough, I think that could easily be in a modern film, and I feel like you don't see it as much anymore.
Yeah, I think too with Fred McMurray's character Neff, because this movie starts off with him walking into the building he works in. He's recording his confession, and he says about how when he left, because when he went there the first time to sell auto insurance to her husband, she's like trying to then seduce him, and Stanwyck's character can tell when a man is attracted to her. She knows how to turn it on too, and she knows when to how to sucker a man in. And there's even hints in this movie, not just hint, that she perhaps murdered the wife too, because she was her nurse. And the first time she's saying, "Well, I'm just so concerned about my husband." At first, she puts on the caring wife act to sucker Fred McMurray's character in. And he says he just, he left, but he admits to being attracted to her. And so when she calls and says, "Oh, my husband will be this afternoon," he isn't, he doesn't. And the maid's gone. She does this on purpose to lure him back. And there she tells him, "Well, can't we just do it without him knowing?" And that's where he he realizes, "Oh, okay, you're wanting to kill him." And he walks out, and he says he went and got a beer to get the taste of her iced sweet tea or iced tea out of his mouth because it disgusted him. But here's the thing: he knew it wasn't going to be left at that because she came to his door, and that's where finally she sealed the deal before he ever did with the insurance.
Joel, one thing, it was Ice Cube who appeared in this movie, not Ice T.
Yeah,
She hasn't come back. When she has already, metaphorically thrown her fish line out, and she's seeing, can I reel this guy in? How interested he is. I agree with everything you said. That's the only thing is, she's already going, okay, I've got this guy. Let's see how much I have him. And I think one of my problems with Barbara Stanwyck, because first of all, this is probably her best role. And she does do a good job in it. She reminds me of someone I used to know who, I didn't kill nobody. I wasn't asked to kill nobody, but I had a very somewhat similar relationship in this film, and kind of, again, I walked into it with my eyes open, but so she is the type. I mean, yeah, thinking about it, you could definitely pull her in, and I think now might be the proverbial bored suburban housewife might be a variation of the femme fatale. Because something I was reading was like, we have no real proof that her husband is such a horrible man. We just have her word for it. Because the only time we see him, he's been out working all day. He's tired. He didn't want to really deal with anybody's crap. I think we can. Anybody watching this video, man or woman, because like, okay, I can totally understand that. So it's it's the way the character is, and she's by then she's she's got him. And I know a friend watched it, and he's like, my only problem with this is when they're kissing and carrying on his apartment, he's like, I'm crazy about you, baby. And he's like, that just happens way too quick for me. And I'm like, it does, but it's one of those things. It's kind of like, Star Wars. You have to just accept the Force. Star Trek, you have to accept the technology. And as long as you accept that, the rest of the film's fine. I'm sure we've all met someone like, oh my God, but by the same token, you don't have, oh my God, I'm crazy, I'm gonna go kill your husband for you. I hopefully that does not happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gordon, what do you think?
I think that the film does the way they handle Stanwyck's character and the way she plays it. And when you consider that this is like the film that really almost invented noir, it's never clear until you're into the movie that she's playing him. Watching that scene where she comes out with the towel and, oh, you caught me sunbathing. You could see where if he had not been who he was, if they had, I don't know, let's say Walter Brennan in that, she'd probably be like, oh, sorry, let me put something on and I'll be back later. And she'd be nice to him, but probably just shoo him out. She knows how to read him, but she also knows it's a very subtle playing of people. Whereas I think later on you would have another actress might have been much more deliberately evil about it. She plays it very subtly and very much, it's never like, blah, ha, ha, I'm evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never knew she was playing him. I thought it was Fred McMurray.
I see Walter Brennan. Oh, you got a husband over there. Oh, you're killing.
I think Walter Brennan would have been a better Huff than Fred McMurray. I'm just saying.
When you watch the Kane Mutiny, the original Kane Mutiny, he's a traitor to the core.
Walter
So
Brennan.
is Walter
Walter
Brennan
Brennan's not in that movie.
No, Fred McMurray. Fred McMurray, I said.
Fred McMurray is playing Walter Brennan
In the Kane Mutiny. Fred McMurray.
No,
his
Fred
character.
McMurray
now I have
plays
to
Merrick in Kane Mutiny. He doesn't play Walter Brennan. Get it right.
Okay, so just and I know we'll get back to Double Indemnity in a moment. So just so I've got this straight, Fred McMurray is playing Walter Brennan, who's playing Merrick in the Kane Mutiny.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Old Yellowstone.
Okay, I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
that was Humphrey Bogart.
Joel, here's the little thing I mentioned earlier before we started recording. I think it's on the biography, formerly on A&E channel, of Fred McMurray. Apparently, this movie and came out, and Fred McMurray was out, I think, shopping, and a woman came up and slapped him across the face and said, "That's not the kind of film I want to take my family to. Do you think that's a family film, Mr. McMurray?" And apparently, he looked at her and was like, "No, ma'am, you're right. It's not." And that's why he didn't do anything like this ever again. It's like
He's stuck with Captain Marvel.
Exactly. I wish somebody had just stopped this one. Like, lady, shut up! This is one of the greatest films ever.
Yeah, and see what McMurray says. Listen, okay, my 3 sons love this movie. That's all you need to know. I would take my 3 sons to see this movie. I'd even take Uncle Charlie to see this movie. Yeah.
Oh man, Uncle Charlie would have let her have it.
Oh no, Uncle Charlie wasn't there. If he'd been there, yes, he would have let her have it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He would have. He would have let her have it. Yeah, William Demarest or William Frawley? Which side do you come down on?
Oh,
just erotically.
I'd have to say William Demarest. I've seen more of him than William Frawley.
Okay.
I think Vivian Vance kind of took some of Frawley's mojo out during I Love Lucy.
He really behaved himself. He was a real drinker. And when he made I Love Lucy, they said, "Bill, there can't be so much as a fume." And he said, "Oh, okay." And he didn't miss a day. He did not miss a day. That's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
That's back when they were respectable.
Like, to me, if they would do a femme fatale today,
it'd be William Demarest.
Yeah.
No, it would be Walter Brennan. Hey, I don't like my
He's-
wife.
He's too
But
busy in the Navy.
it would be every other scene would alternate between Walter Brennan and William Demarest as the femme fatale.
It's the multiverse.
There we
Yeah.
go.
There was a series on Netflix. I forget the name of it, but it was in German. And I was watching it, and it's about these people who live in this town where if you don't like live out your life a certain way, your doppelganger, a bell will ring, and your doppelganger will rise up from the water to kill you and replace you, and live out that life. I forget what it's called.
Orange is the new black.
But it was really weird. But the one thing I noticed about it was with the women in the story, it's not that none of them were femme fatales. They were too busy debating who they really were. Like, were they replaced? Were they a monster? Because the people who replace you are not human. They look like you. They don't necessarily fully act like you. It's really weird. But to me, what a femme fatale would be today would be, let's say there's this normal family guy who works every day as a lawyer. He's got a family. He's got a wife. He's got kids. Well, this woman moves in across the street from him, and she's so attracted to him. At first, she starts off working at a place across from him that's also a lawyer's office, but she decides to transfer because she wants him and wants to do everything to get rid of his family. To me, that would be a femme fatale today.
You know, write that.
What was the movie with Alicia Silverstone?
Batman and Robin.
Oh, the
Not
one
that-
with Mark Wahlberg.
I don't know who else is in it, but like she's like this young girl.
The
But
Crush.
the Crush, yes,
Yeah.
that sounds, and that may be one of the most.
I guess
more
Wild Things had that femme fatale quality. That was sort of that pre-WB gasp of naughty women.
And I love the fact about Wild Things, the spins and the twists and turns in the story, and I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, that's to me that's very noir because you don't know who's on whose side.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite Fred McMurray role or movie? Is it this?
There's so many.
You're
I think
going
Follow Me, Boys is Boy Scout Disney movie.
Gordon.
Oh, I'd have to say The Absent-Minded Professor. I know it's the obvious choice, but you know, I wasn't expecting to be asked about Fred McMurray movies. I was expecting to talk about Double Indemnity.
Well, we're talking about we're talking about art. No.
Yes.
I've got two answers. One's a smart ass. One to sound very smart ass, but it's a serious answer. As most people know, and Patrick alluded to earlier, Fred McMurray was the visual inspiration for the character of Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam. I cannot look at Captain Marvel and not think of Fred McMurray.
Sure.
Plain and simple. His favorite role, I guess, if it's not this, then it's truthfully, it's My Three Sons, because you know I'm of the age that I grew up and it was on in syndication, and I watched that. So that was Fred McMurray as far as I knew, and then I watched this, and I'm like, he can't do those kind of roles, you know.
Steve Douglas, so mellow. What was in that pipe?
Smelled a little funny.
Well, you have to understand, Patrick. At one point, McMurray was so popular, he would do like all his scenes in like a week, and then the other actors would have to film their scenes. So it's probably like, I'm earning $1,000 a minute for this to film. Of course, I'm going to be mellow.
Working,
And I wonder
working
if
at
like
the
one of his
plant.
kids ever like approached him, you know, said something like, "Hey, you know, did you ever get it on with Barbara Stanwyck?" And McMurray's like, "I don't talk about those things, young man."
Talk to Uncle Charlie, because he did.
Though I love Barbara Stanwyck in this role, this movie, and I love Fred McMurray. This is my favorite Fred McMurray movie simply because what great range he showed in it. I mean, he could play anything really, and this showed it. And with Barbara Stanwyck, is this my favorite Barbara Stanwyck movie? Nope. Meet John Doe is, if you've ever seen it.
That's a great movie.
You know, really,
He's
really.
also very good in Ball of Fire.
Yes. Is that the movie with Henry Fonda, or?
I don't remember. I just remember her.
I do know that she played in one of the movies. She marries Henry Fonda, the character Henry Fonda's playing, and she's like her father's a card shark. In the movie.
Joel, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
I'm going to move to arguably my favorite character in this film. What is your favorite Edward G. Robinson role? Because he just nails the hell out of this film as Keys.
Yeah,
to me, he's the glue.
My favorite role or my favorite movie?
Either one.
I'll go my favorite role because it wasn't a gangster role. It's called I Am the Law. He plays a professor who fights crime, which I loved him in. He was really great in that. Nobody talks about it a lot. It's a great movie. It's a fun watch. But my favorite movie of his, Larson Yank. I laughed my ass off because here's Edward G. Robinson, who played tough guys, who played gangster, who played a professor who enforced the law. Now he's playing a gangster who's fake selling shoes, but is trying to rob a bank. They're in the shoe store trying to rob a bank, and he's outside dressed in Santa, smoking a cigar. It's fucking hilarious.
You know what I say? Dry, he's nothing. With a golden calf, he's a god.
Yeah.
And my favorite Edward G. Robinson movie, well, probably Soylent Green.
Yeah.
I like that. Or Tom Green, one or the other. Soylent's brother. I think I think it was in the late 60s. He was playing Tarzan a lot, and that was a bizarre turn of things. The costume, because they would alternate Edward G. Robinson and Ron Ely, and leave the costume the same, and I couldn't tell the difference, and neither could America. I would say that, but Dathan, of course, the lovable Dathan. I should deliver it now. As he's checking his app for Uber Eats. Dathan, of course, he's so much fun, and he's so strangely feminine. As he's lounging about, it's Eddie Robinson's hilarious in that.
And for anyone that doesn't know, on ABC television, he's talking about the Ten Commandments.
Butch, I think that buzzing is coming from you, because I'm hearing it real loud. You talked about that the other week, and so that's the only common denominator that's going on.
Oh, sorry.
It sounds like you've got a Tesla coil, like Dr. Pretorius is running around in the background or something.
Yeah, I think actually Jewel has like some kind of software with Skype where he's doing it just to mess with Butch. He's like he's a DJ.
It's a good Edward G. Robinson.
You notice Joel didn't ask me what my favorite Edward G. Robinson
What's
is.
your favorite Edward G. Robinson movie?
Oh, you're only asking now because I'm bugging you about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think outside of this movie, I'd have to say The Stranger with Orson Welles, because he's got the same energy. Here, I love him because he's just so goofy and so humorous. My favorite scene where he's talking, it starts with him telling the guy, You've never actually seen an actuarial table, haven't you? And then goes into that whole spiel about suicide. But in The Stranger, he's got that same dedication, but it's much more directed. And plus, he's up against Orson Welles, so as always, it's like a really good combination.
Another good movie of his that he's in, he plays a newspaper editor. I forget what it's called, but it's really a good movie. Where they reveal this, the wife or the mother was a serial killer or something. I forget what it's called. It's in black and white.
Psycho.
No. It's not called Psycho.
Well, this isn't the movie you're talking about, Joel. But you had mentioned you'd never seen one particular Edward G. Robinson movie. I just want to give you a heads up. Little Caesar is not about pizza. Just want to put that out there.
I've seen that movie.
Oh, okay.
It was good. Eddie Robinson was good in Party at Kitty and Studs with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I'll have
That was good.
I'll have to see if it's streaming.
Joel, that's final from 1951. 5-star final.
Yeah.
There's my
Butch,
for that.
I'm sorry. That buzzing is really loud. Can you try without the headphones?
Yeah, hold on.
Try and unplug those. I think that. Well, let's see. Okay, it seemed to stop. I don't hear it anymore. Do you guys?
Speak loudly. We'll ask.
Yeah, I think it was a short in those or something.
They're only about 10 years old.
I still think it was Jewel pressing a button, messing with Butch.
Oh my God.
Those headphones didn't arrive on your porch in a box with a big ribbon on it saying "Use these." Signed, a friend.
Well, actually, it said from J-U-L, and then it was a line through it, and then it said U-H, and then I think the next word was friend, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's
Did you get like a P.S. I'm 2 states away?
No, but down there was a note inside, and it said, "P.S. I am extremely. There is no chance I am Joel Saves."
That's right.
So
signed Epstein's mother.
Criminal genius.
Did it come with any nude photos?
You want naked pictures of Walter Brennan?
Maybe it doesn't roll that way.
Oh my God. Anyway, what's you guys' favorite scene from this movie, Butch?
Favorite scene? This is one. Joel. I try to think what you're going to ask, and try to have a good answer. So I'm not just. There are so many good scenes in this film. I think it's probably the door scene where McMurray and Edward G's like comes in and he's waiting on Stanwyck to show up, and then like Edward G goes to the elevator and he's got the door open and like she grabs it and pulls it just enough so that he knows she's there, and it's a scene that has been redone several times in various other films, and in my opinion is never done anywhere near as good as it is in this. This is the one where you go, oh, that's where this comes from, and this is how you do it right.
Yeah.
Billy Wilder. I mean, he's a genius,
Gordon?
Oh, let's see. I would probably, my favorite non-Edward G. Robinson scene would probably have to be where he's talking about, well, here's how you're going to do it. We're going to do this, where he thinks he's suggesting it to her, but it's actually she has gotten him to actually start thinking about it. Like it's, he's going to jump off the train, he's going to do this, and with the husband. So, because then later the husband ends up like spraining his ankle, and so they have to kind of modify their plan.
Yeah. Patrick?
I think it's the scene juxtaposing when Edward G. Robinson, Fred McMurray is doing that Cary Grant impression, and he's on the yacht with Marilyn Monroe, and Edward G. Robinson is on the date with Joey Brown and doing the tango.
I forgot that scene. I completely forgot that scene.
Billy Wilder, again, genius.
Oh my God. My favorite scene, because here's the thing with Barbara Stanwyck, they show you all this, how beautiful this woman is, and Barbara Stanwyck was absolutely stunning. She appears
Not
to
according
you
to Butch
in a towel, and she comes down dressed. At times you feel like you're Fred McMurray's
Keep your
character.
fanfic to yourself, Jewel.
Like I would do anything for this woman, literally anything, because she's so drop dead beautiful. But my favorite scene with her is when Barbara Stanwyck honks the horn to kill her husband. her eyes are just so purely evil because she's enjoying all this. That's where you can tell really she's cold-blooded. And I love that.
You said this almost word for word about Clarice Blackburn, though. About following her around. I remember that.
Yeah, and Joe, you were sending me some Facebook messages about Clarice that I cannot repeat on because YouTube will pull this video, but I mean just pure.
Well,
I'm ashamed to think of it. Yes,
they were Cronenbergian.
Let me tell you something. Nothing turns me on like a boiled dinner from Mrs. Johnson.
Well, and hence, of course, Clarice Blackburn's magnificent turn in Fatal Attraction.
I think that should be the top of this video. Nothing turns me on like a boiled dinner.
Oh my God. No, I really love how they do this though, this whole movie, because it's a confession of a lifetime. And I love really the ending is really good because here's Fred McMurray's character. He's sat up against the door, and when Edward G. Robinson's character comes out, he says, Fred Murray's character says, "You know why you couldn't catch me? Because I was right across the desk from you, Keys. I was that close." And he goes, Edward G. Robinson's character goes, "A lot closer than that." And he goes, "I love you too." That's what Fred Murray's character says.
A lot of people like to tell Edward G. A lot of macho men like to tell Edward G. Robinson they loved him at the end of a movie. "I love you too, Saul." That sent Jewel out of the room.
You know why? Because Jewel is afraid of men sharing who they are. He's afraid because we're open, we're vulnerable. We're not a macho tough guy wannabe like he is. We admit that we're okay.
You know, I do want to. I want to say something. I don't want to. If anybody has one, go right ahead. But my second favorite scene is literally the first scene with the car going down the street and going through the red light and swerving around that truck and you see Fred McMurray get out and you can tell something's wrong with him. And for me, you are brought into this film right then and there. You're like, what's going on? I want to hear this. Well, what's he got to say? How did we get here? And I think that's such a great thing when that's done right. You know, it's pretty daring, I think, to begin the film with the ending. And when it's done right, like this, it's like, oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah, and also kudos to Raymond Chandler, who co-wrote this with Billy Wilder, because you could tell where a lot of that great dialogue comes from, like you know, Joel mentioning I drank the beer to get the taste of her tea out of my mouth, which, yeah, Joel, that was just, oh man, I can't realize I said that out loud. What I can't believe how smutty I just sounded. Shame on you, Joel.
Now, are you familiar with James M. Cain?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good, because you know Cain gave us some great novels, and I wonder if that was also partly him.
I do know in reading about this movie that part of the challenge in adapting this particular novella was that Cain wrote good dialogue, but that didn't necessarily sound like speech. It read well. But I could see where Chandler might have been good at taking something that with that sentiment, and you know, it may have been like a prose thing, like Hef went to the bar and drank some beer to get the tea out of her mouth, and Chandler turned it into dialogue. So
yeah, I can see that.
Is there? I'm going to ask the smartest man that I know, and Joel. Sorry, Joel, I couldn't resist that. Seriously, this is a serious question. The dialogue in this film is so snappy, almost to running over each other, just like in Big Sleep and other great film noirs and other films. Is that quick, snappy dialogue, is that an unofficial or official component of film noir?
I think so. Yeah. And I think that's why Wilder was so well suited to take it on, because that is a commonality in all of his films.
The problem with people saying what noir is in like later years is they just think the noir is light and shadow. It's not. That's a part of it. Noir is the language, how it's spoken and how quick it is, like you just mentioned. There are just horrible noir movies that are in color.
Yeah, it's also about moral complexity because, it's noir films basically came out of the fact that for the longest time, movies were restrained as to what they could do. And Double Indemnity was one of those movies that the Hays Code had come out just a few years before that. So they were operating under a lot of what can we get away with and what we can't. And because noir films you could shoot on black and white film because that was cheap. You could, if you needed, let's say you were filming out on the street and it started raining, cool. You've got that nice kind of shiny stuff. But it's always about desperate people who are doing the best in a tough situation. And there's no easy way out. I mean, I wish I could find it streaming, but I'd love for us to watch the complete cut of Kiss Me Deadly, the Robert Aldrich film. It's based on Mickey Spillane, which I think 3 out of 4 of us would find interesting, but I'm not going to mention who the fourth person would be. He'd probably find it boring. He'd be like, "Oh, that's the suitcase from Pulp Fiction."
Don't talk about me like.
I wasn't talking about you like that, Butch. I won't mention any names. It's not my rule.
What do you, scale 1 to 10? What do you guys give Double Indemnity?
It's a 10. I mean,
10.
It's one of the greatest movies ever made.
If you can't get this anything other than whatever a perfect score is in your rating, you need to watch it again.
You're just a commie. You're a commie rat. And
or you're Matt Damon, who is a piece of shit who's never seen black and white because he doesn't like it. I'm sorry. Anyway,
did Matt Damon say that?
Well, he doesn't like black and white movies.
Did he say that recently?
I'm gonna go research this.
To whoever did the Psycho remake with Vince Vaughn, I can't think of the director's name. Gus Van Sant. Van Sant said that Matt Damon said he had never watched Psycho.
That's a lot of Matt Damon's a pretty sharp guy. I would like to think that if he did say that, he has revised his take on that by now.
I hope so. I have a really good film for you guys in 2 weeks because I know Butch can't do it.
Hold on. I have a question for all of you. What happens to Fred McMurray's character Walter Neff at the end of this film? Now, I know somebody's going to mention, and so I'm going to get away. There is a deleted scene which is not known to still be in existence, where we see Neff going to the gas chamber. Let's throw that out.
Okay.
What do you think happens to the character after this film, Joel?
Life in prison.
Patrick?
Joins the priesthood.
Gordon?
Marries someone and has 3 sons. And oh, by the way, here's the alternate ending that was left out.
Yeah. I have thought ever since I first saw this film that he bleeds out and dies right there. And because I feel like that's him going to prison is not a suitable punishment. Him dying ignominiously right there where basically he committed his crime, so to speak. To me, that's the better ending. But obviously that's just me. I was just curious if you ever thought that.
Yeah, and plus with the way the Hays Code operated, if you did wrong, you had to be punished. I know that the producers thought, do we really want to put Fred McMurray in a gas chamber on film? But removing it, what it does is it makes him, because he's not a good man gone bad. He is a crooked man who says, "What the hell?"
See, I don't think he's crooked. I think he's just cynical. And
he's not straightforwardly good. He's shaky, but he just becomes more shaky as he suffers the consequences of his actions at the end.
Yes, but what about like what he does for the daughter and trying to help her?
Well, I think that's like his moment of, okay, why I at least got this right.
His heel face turn, if you will.
Right.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Joel. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to get that out.
No, you're fine. You can interrupt me anytime.
Anyway,
I have the perfect movie in 2 weeks for you guys, even though we're going to pass Easter. How about we do the 10 Commandments?
It's one of my favorite movies. I think it's maybe the most fun movie ever made.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
It is. I'll give you a quick story. Growing up, my grandfather my paternal grandfather was the sing leader at a church. My grandmother played the piano. My uncle was a deacon who became a pastor. I've got several pastors in my dad's side of the family. And, 10 Commandments comes on at Easter. And my aunt was like, you should come watch this with us. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. This is a religious thing. She's like, it's got that guy from Planet of the Apes.
I'm there.
I was, and I never. I'm like, oh my god! And I already knew who Vincent Price was, so I enjoyed that. And I don't think I knew who Edward G was, but I enjoyed the heck out of his. And such a great film.
So in 2 weeks, the 10 Commandments, right? We're all good on it.
Or next week, the 5 Commandments.
The first 5.
Yeah.
The Lord God.
Or Monday, the first commandment.
Have you ever seen History of the World Part 1 with Mel Brooks?
He's
it's
15.
Like, Lord God, he's 15. 10 Commandments.
Well, there's that weird, what is it, Exodus, 20 versus Exodus 34, where there are 2 completely different sets of 10 Commandments. That's a real interesting moment.
Mm-hmm.
In there, because when he gets mad, he goes away and he comes back with the commandments, and they're totally different. Well, they're not totally different. They're pretty different, and they're sort of pettier. They're more, precise kosher laws and things like that. And what always struck me is, why weren't those on the courthouse lawn? Because it's like God's second draft. It's like, Moses. I'm glad you smashed those and came back, because I've been thinking about it. And I'm real worried about oysters. You guys are going to get sick.
Yeah, now we know where Joseph Smith got the idea when he was doing those tablet things to create the Mormon church.
Yeah, the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in They Live.
Is there anything you guys want to add about Double Indemnity before we go?
It's even better than the prequel, Indemnity.
Gordon?
And this is one of those, you've got to see this movie at least once once in your lifetime.
It's a great film, and just another testament to Billy Wilder's breadth. I mean, I think the year before he got the Oscar for Lost Weekend.
I think Lost Weekend was after this one.
Was it after this? I knew that they were right next to each other.
Because when he was working with Chandler was recovering from alcoholism, and Chandler was back to drinking. And Wilder was like, "Oh, I'm working with an alcoholic. Maybe I should." And that's what led him to write The Lost Weekend with Raymond.
Okay, all right. I knew they were next to each other. That's another good movie to see.
Yeah, this is a film. The great thing about it is, even I tell you I don't like Barbara Stanwyck. Just to the point where it's like, okay, this film moves so well. It's not long. If you're one of these barbarians who refuse to watch black and white, well, piss on you. You're wasting your time. You're missing some of the greatest films ever made. And this is one of them. I know, we're not, the meanest people when it comes to rating, I've noticed. But this is a 10. This is to Westerns. What Stagecoach is to Westerns, this is to film noir. It's the prototype. It's the blueprint. If you don't know what film noir is, or if you think you know, you want to learn more, go watch this film. And just, you may have to, depending on, your modern sensibilities, you may have to put the remote a little bit further away, but you are rewarded with literally one of the greatest films ever made. And
this is one of 3 movies that are in black and white that I can show kids and they say, oh, I like black and white, or this is a good black and white movie. It's this and Some Like It Hot and Manchurian Candidate. Yeah, and those are those work. And the secret is it kind of raises a bar for us, because the movie has to be really good, and it has to have a story that's interesting enough and gripping enough, with enough suspense to pull you through, that you want to keep watching it. And then at the very least, the black and white becomes irrelevant to them, but you've made a major victory.
Yep.
And because you always say, well, now you liked you like The Lighthouse or whatever, you like Manchurian Candidate. So
Absolutely. Guys, this has been a fun video. Links to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound is going to be in the description box. Butch, Gordon, Patrick, you guys have a great weekend.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.